Nothing matters. In a world full of infinite decisions and infinite choices, nothing you do really matters. If the theory of a multiverse really holds true, then that means whatever decision you make, you made the opposite decision somewhere else. And every single thing you do has no real consequence. But on the other side of the coin, everything you do matters. Because you are only going to be the person you are on this earth, or on this plane of existence, however you want to think about it. So every action that you take has a reaction that you're going to have to deal with. Every choice you make matters. Now, why am I talking about any of this on a video about Crisis on Two Earths, a DC movie from 2010? It's because that's what this movie is all about. It's truly just a crisis of two ideologies, specifically between Alman and Batman, with one person believing that nothing matters, no choice they make matters, and one person believing that every choice they make has an effect, whether it be positive or negative. It is truly just like the old adage, are you a glass half full kind of person or a glass half empty kind of person? And despite how different these two ideologies sound on paper, they truly are just two sides of the same coin. Batman and Alman are two sides of the same coin. By this point, if you've clicked on this video, I'm going to assume that you know Batman's story, and I'm not really going to dig into it too much as this video goes on, as I think that time is better served with Alman's backstory. In this movie, the Justice League are fairly new. Batman is just now getting set up building the Watchtower, and he is much more than willing to try and test out the new technologies on the Watchtower, much to Flash's dismay.
Are you crazy? Is he crazy? How could he use that thing on me if he wasn't sure?
He was joking.
Yeah? How can you tell?
You really think he would risk your life if he wasn't sure?
Well, maybe. I mean, I don't think he likes me very much.
I don't think he likes anyone very much.
Now, I think it's pretty obvious. Batman would not have used the teleporter on Flash if he didn't know for certain that it would work just fine. Because at the end of the day, Batman has a lot of compassion. He does care for his fellow teammates, he cares for the people that he protects, and that's something that I think we should keep in mind moving forward. Now, Alman is the complete opposite of Bruce. He is cold, calculating, and even though Bruce sometimes feigns indifference and feigns as though he does not care, Alman truly does not care. He comes from what was formerly known as Earth 2. It's an Earth in which both heroes and villains have their roles flipped. So, the Justice League are the bad guys. They're currently in an ever-growing fight with the United States government in order to take control of the US. They run multiple crime rings, and in this universe, Lex Luthor is a good guy. He leads the Justice League, and he's quite literally the last member of his Justice League. So Luthor looks for another world's heroes to enlist. Now, of course, the Justice League we see in this movie feel as though they have a moral obligation to help. Even though it is not their Earth, they did make an oath to protect people, and so the Justice League wants to. But Batman, on the other hand, does not feel as though he has to protect those people, as he believes his people to come first. He is centered on his own Earth, not protecting the multiverse, but keeping safe what is his, essentially. And while it may seem cold that Batman does not care to want to go save these other people, he's not stopping the rest of the Justice League from doing it. He simply says somebody needs to stay back and focus on their own Earth.
Not this time.
Why not?
We've got too much on our plate right here. We haven't even finished constructing our new headquarters.
Our first responsibility is to protect the Earth.
That's right. Our Earth. We don't have enough manpower to even do that properly.
To Batman, his Earth means everything. Every decision he makes is in a calculated effort to hopefully make the living conditions on his own Earth better. And so he stays behind to look after it while the rest of the Justice League travel over to another Earth, a parallel universe. And while the Justice League are swapping over to Earth 2, I think it's a good time that we have the discussion about Alman. You see, Alman is like the antithesis of Batman in just about every sort of way. While the two share similarities in being cold and being standoffish, they do so for very different reasons. They're both shaped by the trauma that they had in childhood. Difference being is that Bruce's trauma drives him to help people. It drives him to save people, to hope that his trauma is never enacted on another person again. Alman, on the other hand, wants to enact this trauma onto other people. Alman originally killed his own family. He killed Martha and Thomas Wayne simply because he wanted to get the money for himself. He wanted to be wealthy and saw his parents as a stepping stone to get there. And so he was more than willing to murder them in order to get what he desires. Alman from inception was never good. The core traits at Bruce Wayne's heart that make him a decent person underneath all of his Batman shenanigans and charades, Alman simply doesn't have. It is if you took the one core element that made Batman human and you removed it. Alman has some very few motivations in this movie. It's very simple for him. He wants power, he wants control, and he wanted money and wealth. That is until he discovers multiversal travel. Now, the crime syndicate had been building what is essentially a nuclear device that could blow up the entire world, all in the event of getting leverage, hopefully to use against all of the nations of the world, as Ultraman, the head of what was formerly the Seven Houses, now Six, is ready to use that weapon for mass destruction as a way to completely destroy the world if the crime syndicate is tested. I think it's also worth mentioning that Alman is such a sociopath that he is quite literally willing to go behind Ultraman's back, who happens to be the most powerful being on this said planet, and steal his girlfriend from him because, well, Alman has almost no sense of risk-reward. He simply does what he wants and what feels good to him. All because Alman has little to almost no care for the syndicate anymore. He doesn't fear consequences, nor does he care what happens, because Alman is far more focused on his big end goal. In a world where no choices matter because a multiverse exists, because every choice you make, you can make the opposite choice in another Earth. So in Alman's mind, his very analytical mind, nothing he will ever do matters. Nothing he does has any effect on a timeline, on his Earth, anything. So what is the one action that you could take in order to make a change? It's simple. You wipe out the ability for anybody to ever make a choice. Alman's entire plan in this movie is to go back and find Earth Prime and destroy it, effectively ending the entire multiverse and even his own life.
Every decision we make is meaningless. Because somewhere on a parallel Earth, we've already made the opposite choice. We're nothing. Less than nothing.
Now, this is going to be my own personal analytical notes, but I think the reason Alman wants to do this is because he fears being less than nothing. Alman hates the fact that he is not everything, that he is not the most powerful, he is not the smartest, and that his decisions and choices may mean absolutely nothing in the long run. It bothers him because he has to be the one to make all of these decisions. His decisions have to matter. And on some level, we as people are just like that. How many times, for example, have you played a game about choice and then you get upset when your decision has no consequence or doesn't matter at all? On some level, we all want our decisions to matter. It just happens for Alman that the only decision he deems worthy of mattering is destroying the known multiverse. All because his ego can't handle being a cog in the machine or not being number one. Another thing worth noting is that Alman sees everybody who works with him or that is in his way as a stepping stone towards his ultimate goal. Alman, I guarantee you, cares very little for Superwoman, if not at all. He does not care about her, but their relationship benefits him twofold. One, as having another person in the syndicate who will help him enact his plan, and the second one is, well, he thinks she's hot, and there you go. Oh, and it's probably a huge ego boost that he's cucking Ultraman, who's like the most powerful person on the entire planet. So there's also probably that too. And that's just another starkly contrasting difference from Batman, who very much values his teammates. As a matter of fact, in this movie, I'm going to say in this movie because sometimes he doesn't value his teammates, nor value with working with anybody, depending on the continuity. But in this movie, Batman very much values the teammates he works with and actually reaches out to other heroes in attempts to get help in order to fight Superwoman. Batman very much believes in collaborative efforts. Now, for pacing reasons, I'm going to do a little recap here. The entire reason that Superwoman is even on this Earth is because the key they need for the bomb that would destroy the world was taken by Lex Luthor, and when Lex visited this Earth, he planted the trigger for the bomb on this Earth in hopes that Alman would not be able to replicate the technology that Luthor made in order to travel different dimensions. But obviously Alman would, because Alman is pretty smart himself. Now obviously Batman was not going to go down without a fight, and so of course he does follow them, dimension hopping back to Earth 2, all in an event to hopefully get the trigger back from Superwoman and prevent a gigantic bomb from going off, even though Batman doesn't really know the bomb exists at this point. Batman was more than willing to throw himself into danger headlong, all in the event that he may end up helping his fellow teammates and or saving the lives of other people, just because that's who Batman is. I think we all know this by now, or at least anybody with good common sense on the character, but I have an entire video. Now, in order to hopefully save us both some time, I'm just going to do as fast as I can a quick little recap so we can move on to the next most important point. Batman shows up on Earth 2, gets mad at Luthor for leaving the trigger on his watchtower. Batman stops being mad because there are more pressing matters, i.e. the fact that the trigger is now in possession of the crime syndicate, and now they have an unconscious Superwoman, and so their grand plan is to go assault the base on the moon where these crime syndicate are keeping the bomb, and they're going to use Superwoman to get inside, and Wonder Woman gets pissy at Superwoman. It's kind of funny. You should really watch this movie, by the way. Each superhero gets a really cool fight scene with their own counterparts, except for Martian Manhunter. He deserves his whole own video from this movie, mind you, that I maybe do in the future. Depends on how well this one does. Regardless, that's where our next most important point comes up. In the chaos and distraction of all of the fighting, Alman finally initiates the plan that he had all originally. He has found Earth Prime, the very first Earth in which the very first decision was made that sprung the multiverse to life. Alman is finally going to be able to complete the one thing he has always wanted to do. Now, of course, the Justice League let the crime syndicate know what's up, and the two of them are basically going to team up together, all in the event of getting Alman not to destroy all of reality, which would also include their Earth, all while Superwoman tries to cover for him. Did you guys know that Superwoman's not even the stand-in for Wonder Woman? She's actually the stand-in for Mary Marvel, one of the Shazam kids. That's not really super important to this video, but I like that fact. Now, unfortunately, Alman did break the only other version of the Earth-traveling gun that they use in order to open portals, and so they're going to need a speedster vibrating at a very specific frequency, all in order to reach Earth Prime. And now Batman says that Flash is not fast enough. He would rather have Johnny Quick do it.
I'm your man.
No, you're not. You're too slow.
What?
I know your limitations. You can't possibly reach the speed necessary to pull this off.
No, I can.
This will be important later, and also shout out Josh Keaton for voicing Flash in this movie. I just think he does a great job in just about everything he's in. And we are finally here, the climax of the movie, the culmination of these two characters and these two defining ideologies finally coming together in one big battle of thought, basically. This fight is far less physical than it is mental, especially when it comes to Alman trying to explain his philosophy to Bruce.
Illusion came chaos. With every choice we make, we literally create a world. History branches in two, creating one Earth, where we made the choice, and a second, where we didn't.
Alman believes that free choice, or the illusion of free choice and free will, is what led to the downfall of man. It leads to war, corruption, famine, it leads to all of these terrible things. Bruce is on the complete other opposite end of the spectrum. He believes that the choices, the free will that we have, can bring great good to the world. Medical advancements, the ability in which we have to care for one another, that's all because of our illusion of free choice. Alman sees people as a cancer, whereas Bruce sees them as just things that need a little fixing, more like a broken ankle.
Man is a cancer, and I've chosen to cut out the disease.
Now, it might be at this point in the video, you're probably wondering, why didn't the Justice League send Superman, for example? Obviously, he probably would have been better equipped to deal with Alman and to defuse the situation. And the answer is kind of layered. Obviously, from a narrative purpose and a sort of, looking as a viewer, obviously the ending of the movie just works better when you send Batman to face Alman. When you send the two opposing ideologies to see each other, it just works better as an ending. It's more cathartic and it's more interesting. In universe, it's probably twofold. A, the Justice League obviously still needs to be on the other side of that portal in case for whatever reason the Justice Lords decide to turn on them, and of course if Superman's gone and Ultraman decides to turn on the rest of the League and everybody else over there, it could spell a serious problem. But also I think part of it is Batman does have almost the exact same ego Alman does. He does want to prove that he's able to save the world himself just as much as Alman does. And that's just me thinking out loud. Not 100% confirmed, but Back to more genuine character analysis. Batman and Alman are talking with each other just about this entire fight. They are arguing ideologies. They are arguing about whether or not what Alman's going to do is ethical. Alman believes in his own deluded fantasy world that this is his way of helping the world, cutting out the cancer of man by eliminating them from the timeline completely, getting rid of them. And of course this is in direct antithesis to how Batman feels about the situation. And Batman does in one of the most quoted quotes I think ever when it comes to comic book movies, specifically animated ones, when he gives his speech about blinking when looking at the abyss.
The difference between you and me. We both looked into the abyss. But when it looked back at us, you blinked.
Batman charges into that abyss headlong. He decided to fight darkness with darkness from the very day that he chose to don the mask as Batman, but he has not let that darkness consume him even when he stares into the abyss. For if you gaze long into an abyss, it gazes back into you. And that's what happened with Alman. The abyss gazed back into him. He chose to blink, and he chose to take it all in. And that is where the two characters are most meaningfully different. They have similarities, and at their core they are very similar, but their reasons for doing what they do is why they are so separate. Now, obviously Batman isn't perfect. As a matter of fact, he basically sacrificed Johnny Quick in order to save the known universe. But he wasn't willing to sacrifice Flash to do that. Batman knew exactly what was going to happen when the speedster had to vibrate to a certain point in order to keep that portal open. Batman knew, but his care for his own teammates prevented him from letting Flash make a sacrifice of this level. As Batman, like I said earlier, isn't perfect. But was there really any other option, is the real question. Now, of course, the movie ends on a fairly happy note. Batman is basically saying the Justice League needs more members, let's do some recruiting, and it just shows a little growth on his part when it comes to being more of a team player, I guess. But circling back to the question that I asked at the very beginning of the video, do your actions not matter at all, or do your actions matter the most? And honestly, that's just a question you'll have to answer for yourself. Are you a glass half full kind of person or a glass half empty? I'll be very honest, I've been on both ends of that dilemma. I get what it's like to feel as though nothing I do matters, no matter what choice I make. And sometimes I feel like I have the weight of the whole world on my shoulders with the choices that I make. All of that to say, the option is left up to you. I could encourage you to go one way or the other, but you really have to figure it out for yourself. I don't have the answers. Again, I'm just a dude who likes to sit down in his basement and overanalyze cartoon characters and write long-ass scripts about them. And I hope you guys enjoy these videos, because I enjoy making them. Okay, that's another one of these videos where I end with a super introspective, think for yourself, English teacher ass ending essay. Regardless, I hope you guys did enjoy this video, and for the record, if you did like my analysis, I really recommend you go watch this movie. It was a childhood favorite of mine, and I think I've watched it more times than I can count, and I highly recommend it, as it's a pretty good movie. I also recommend the comic book as well, Crisis on Two Earths comic book, the New 52 version or pre-52 version. I'm more a fan of the New 52 version, but that's just me personally. Anyways, I just want to take a moment to thank all of you for watching, and I want to say, if you liked the video, please leave me a like, it helps a lot. If you feel inclined to sub, that's amazing. Now, if you are disliking the video, please dislike the video and let me know why. I believe the criticism is a really good thing, especially when it comes to helping just evolve my channel. And finally, I just want to say, if you guys can support me on Patreon, I do have a Patreon. All videos will be given out early. They're completely unedited, so you can see my full vision for the video. And if you join the $5 tier, you get shouted out at the end of every one of my videos, just like Golden Boy 420, MC Bomb, Dakota Rawson, and Donovan Gomez. So once again, thank you all for watching. Have an absolutely fantastic day.